Have you ever noticed how the things you run from the most are often the very things that hold the keys to your freedom? There's something profoundly unsettling about this realization, isn't there? The way your mind automatically rejects what it needs most, pushing away the experiences that could transform your entire existence. You've felt this resistance before, that deep internal rebellion when life presents you with exactly what you've been avoiding. Your heart races, your thoughts scatter, and every fiber of your being screams to turn away, to find an escape route, to maintain the familiar patterns that keep you trapped in cycles of suffering and limitation. This is where the ancient wisdom of Taoism reveals one of its most startling truths about the human condition. The Tao, that ineffable source and pattern of all existence, operates through principles that often contradict everything your conditioned mind believes about happiness, success, and fulfillment. While you desperately chase after what you think you want, the universe consistently offers you what you actually need, disguised as the very experiences you resist most fiercely. It's as if existence itself conspires to bring you face to face with your deepest fears, your most uncomfortable truths, your most avoided territories of growth and transformation. The Taoist masters understood this paradox with breathtaking clarity. They recognized that the human mind, in its endless quest for comfort and control, creates elaborate defense mechanisms that ultimately become prisons. You build walls to protect yourself from pain, only to discover that these walls also block your access to joy. You develop strategies to avoid failure, only to find that these strategies prevent you from experiencing genuine success. You create identities based on what you're not, what you won't do, what you refuse to become, and in doing so, you inadvertently limit yourself to a fraction of your true potential. This resistance isn't just a minor inconvenience or a character flaw to be corrected. It's a fundamental aspect of how consciousness operates in this realm of duality and separation. Your mind has been conditioned since childhood to categorize experiences as good or bad, desirable or undesirable, safe or dangerous. These categories become the lens through which you interpret every moment of your existence, creating a filtered reality that bears little resemblance to the actual flow of life as it naturally unfolds. The Tao moves through cycles of expansion and contraction, creation and destruction, fullness and emptiness, but your mind wants only the pleasant half of each cycle, rejecting the very experiences that make wholeness possible. Consider for a moment the last time you felt genuine peace. Chances are, it came not after achieving something you desperately wanted, but after finally accepting something you had been resisting for years. Perhaps it was accepting a difficult truth about yourself, embracing a loss you had been denying, or surrendering to a situation you could not control. In that moment of acceptance, you touched something beyond your mental constructs, something that had been waiting patiently beneath all your struggles and strategies. This is the Tao working through your resistance, using your own avoidance patterns as a pathway to deeper understanding. The first principle that emerges from this understanding is the recognition that your resistance is actually intelligence in disguise. Every time you feel that familiar pull away from an experience, every time your mind generates elaborate justifications for why you can't, shouldn't, or won't engage with what's being offered, you're receiving precise information about where your growth edge lies. Your resistance isn't random. It's pointing you directly toward the areas of your life that are ready for transformation, the places where your old patterns have become too small to contain your expanding consciousness. But here's where most people get trapped. They interpret this resistance as a valid reason to avoid the experience, rather than recognizing it as a compass pointing toward liberation. They assume that if something feels uncomfortable or challenging, it must be wrong for them. This is like a butterfly trying to avoid the discomfort of breaking out of its chrysalis, not understanding that the very struggle is what develops the strength needed for flight. The Tao operates through these paradoxes, using apparent obstacles as stepping stones, transforming resistance into resilience, fear into wisdom, avoidance into awakening. When you begin to see your resistance patterns as teachers rather than enemies, something remarkable starts to happen. You develop what the Taoists call Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action, but more accurately understood as the ability to move in harmony with the natural flow of existence rather than against it. This doesn't mean becoming passive or submissive to every external demand. Instead, it means learning to distinguish between the resistance that comes from wisdom and discernment and the resistance that comes from fear and conditioning. The second principle involves understanding that your mind's desire to avoid certain experiences is actually a form of unconscious attraction. Every time you invest energy in pushing something away, you create a psychological charge around it that keeps it active in your field of awareness. Think about it. The things you hate most consume just as much of your mental energy as the things you love most. Both hatred and love are forms of attachment, different expressions of the same underlying dynamic. The Tao teaches that what you resist persists not because the universe is cruel, but because resistance itself is a form of energetic engagement that maintains what you're trying to eliminate. This is why people often find themselves repeatedly encountering the same types of challenging relationships, the same patterns of failure or disappointment, the same emotional triggers year after year. They're not victims of bad luck or cosmic punishment. They're unconsciously magnetizing these experiences through the intensity of their avoidance. Every time they say never again with passionate conviction, they're actually programming their unconscious mind to notice and attract exactly these scenarios. The emotional charge of their resistance acts like a beacon, drawing to them precisely what they're trying to escape. Have you ever noticed how the people who trigger you most often mirror back qualities you dislike about yourself? This isn't coincidence. This is the Tao's way of showing you the parts of your own nature that you've been denying or projecting onto others. When you feel intense irritation at someone's arrogance, there's likely some unexamined arrogance in your own psyche that needs attention. When you're disturbed by someone's neediness, there may be some unmet needs in yourself that you've been trying to ignore. The external world becomes a mirror, reflecting back the internal territories you've been avoiding, giving you endless opportunities to reclaim these disowned aspects of yourself. The third principle reveals that your avoidance patterns are actually preservation mechanisms that have outlived their usefulness. Every resistance you feel was once a necessary protection. The child who learned to avoid expressing emotions because it wasn't safe needed that strategy to survive. The adolescent who developed perfectionist tendencies to avoid criticism was responding intelligently to their environment. These patterns weren't mistakes. They were brilliant adaptations to specific circumstances. But what serves you at one stage of development can become a limitation at another stage. The problem arises when you continue using outdated protection strategies long after the original threat has passed. You keep avoiding vulnerability even when you're surrounded by people who would welcome your authenticity. You maintain perfectionist standards even when imperfection might actually serve you better. You resist intimacy even when isolation has become more painful than the risk of connection. Your nervous system, designed to keep you safe, doesn't automatically update its threat assessment as your circumstances change. It tends to generalize from past experiences, assuming that what was dangerous before is still dangerous now. This is where conscious awareness becomes essential. The Tao invites you to examine your resistance patterns with curiosity rather than judgment, to investigate whether your current avoidance strategies are still serving your highest good. This investigation isn't about forcing yourself to engage with everything you've been avoiding. It's about developing the discernment to recognize when your resistance is wisdom and when it's simply habit. Sometimes avoiding a particular person or situation is the most loving thing you can do. Other times, your avoidance is keeping you small and preventing the very growth your soul is longing for. The fourth principle addresses the relationship between desire and aversion as two sides of the same coin. In Taoist philosophy, these are not opposites but complementary forces, like the yin and yang symbol, where each contains a seed of the other. What you desperately want often contains elements of what you're afraid of losing. What you desperately avoid often contains elements of what you actually need. The businessman who craves success but fears failure is trapped between two aspects of the same dynamic. The artist who yearns for recognition but dreads criticism is caught in a similar paradox. Understanding this principle can free you from the exhausting cycle of chasing desires while running from fears. Instead of seeing them as separate forces pulling you in different directions, you can begin to recognize them as information about your current relationship with the flow of life. When you notice intense desire for something, you can ask yourself what you're afraid of losing. When you notice strong aversion to something, you can explore what gifts might be hidden within that experience. This doesn't mean you have to pursue everything you desire or embrace everything you fear. It means you can hold both with greater equanimity, allowing them to inform your choices without controlling them. The masters of Taoism discovered that beneath every desire lies a deeper desire for wholeness, and beneath every aversion lies a fear of fragmentation. You don't actually want the specific objects of your desires as much as you want the feeling states you believe these objects will provide. You don't actually fear the specific experiences you avoid as much as you fear the feeling states you believe these experiences will create. When you understand this, you can begin to address the underlying needs and fears directly, rather than getting caught in the endless pursuit and avoidance of external circumstances. This leads to the fifth principle, which involves recognizing that your capacity to be with difficulty is your capacity for life itself. Every time you avoid discomfort, you also diminish your ability to fully receive joy. Every time you refuse to feel sadness, you also limit your access to genuine happiness. This isn't because the universe demands suffering as payment for pleasure. It's because your emotional system operates as an integrated whole. When you shut down one part of your feeling capacity, you inadvertently shut down other parts as well. The Tao flows through the full spectrum of human experience, not just the pleasant parts. When you try to edit out the challenging emotions, you also edit out much of your aliveness. You become like someone watching a movie with half the scenes deleted, wondering why the story doesn't make sense. The avoidance patterns that seem to protect you from pain also protect you from the full richness of being human. They keep you in a kind of emotional limbo, safe but not truly alive, protected but not genuinely fulfilled. Many people spend years in therapy or spiritual practice trying to eliminate their negative emotions, not realizing that these emotions often contain valuable information about what needs attention in their lives. Anger might be pointing toward boundaries that need to be established. Sadness might be indicating losses that need to be grieved. Fear might be highlighting areas where you need to develop more confidence or skill. When you rush to avoid or fix these emotions, you miss the intelligence they're offering. When you learn to be present with them without being overwhelmed by them, they become allies in your growth rather than enemies to be defeated. The sixth principle explores how your avoidance patterns often mask your deepest gifts. The very qualities you try to hide or minimize about yourself are frequently the qualities the world most needs you to express. The person who avoids being seen because they fear their intensity might be exactly the kind of passionate leader their community needs. The individual who resists taking up space because they don't want to be selfish might have a generosity of spirit that could transform their workplace. The artist who avoids sharing their work because it feels too personal might be carrying exactly the message that could heal others who have had similar experiences. This isn't about forcing yourself to express every hidden aspect of your personality without discernment. It's about recognizing that your discomfort with certain aspects of yourself often indicates power rather than weakness. You wouldn't feel so much charge around expressing your creativity if you didn't have significant creative gifts. You wouldn't feel so uncomfortable with leadership if you didn't have natural leadership abilities. Your resistance often points directly to your medicine, the unique contribution you're here to make that only you can make in quite the way you can make it. The Taoist concept of Te, often translated as virtue or power, refers to this unique expression of the Tao through your individual nature. Your Te cannot be developed by copying others or following formulas. It emerges through your willingness to embrace and express your authentic self, including the parts that make you feel vulnerable or different. When you stop trying to be who you think you should be and start exploring who you actually are, you discover gifts you didn't know you had, capacities you didn't realize were possible, ways of contributing that nobody else could have imagined. The seventh principle addresses the role of timing in working with resistance. The Tao operates according to natural rhythms and seasons, not according to your personal timeline for growth and change. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is honor your resistance rather than trying to overcome it. There are seasons for advancing and seasons for retreating, times for engaging with challenge, and times for rest and integration. Pushing yourself to face everything you've been avoiding all at once is like trying to plant seeds in frozen ground. The intention might be admirable, but the timing isn't conducive to growth. Learning to sense the right timing for engaging with your edges requires developing a different kind of intelligence than the mind's logical planning. It requires attunement to your body's signals, your energy levels, your emotional capacity, and the broader context of your life. Sometimes you need to build more resources before taking on a particular challenge. Sometimes you need to clear old patterns before you have space for new experiences. Sometimes the people or circumstances that would support your growth haven't appeared yet, and waiting is actually the most efficient path forward. This doesn't mean using timing as an excuse for indefinite avoidance. It means developing the wisdom to recognize when your resistance is protecting something that isn't ready to be exposed yet, versus when it's simply maintaining patterns that no longer serve you. The difference often becomes clear when you bring honest attention to the situation. Fear-based resistance usually has a quality of reactivity and urgency, while wisdom-based resistance often feels more grounded and spacious. Learning to distinguish between these can save you from both premature exposure and unnecessary limitation. The eighth principle involves understanding that transformation happens through spiral rather than linear progression. Your journey with any particular resistance pattern rarely involves a single breakthrough moment where everything changes permanently. Instead, you're likely to encounter the same core issues at deeper and deeper levels throughout your life, each time with greater capacity to meet them consciously. What felt overwhelming at 20 might feel manageable at 30, and what felt scary at 30 might actually feel exciting at 40. This spiral nature of growth means that you don't have to perfect your relationship with any particular fear or pattern before moving forward in your life. You don't have to become completely fearless about intimacy before entering a relationship, or completely comfortable with visibility before sharing your gifts with the world. You can engage with these edges gradually, allowing your capacity to expand naturally over time. Each small step of courage builds your confidence for the next step, creating an upward spiral of growth and expansion. Understanding this can free you from the perfectionist trap of thinking you need to have everything figured out before taking action. It also helps you be more patient with yourself during times when old patterns resurface. Instead of seeing this as regression or failure, you can recognize it as the natural rhythm of spiral development. You're not going backward. You're encountering the same territory from a higher level of awareness, with more tools and understanding than you had before. The 9th principle reveals that your deepest resistance often surrounds your greatest purpose. The things you feel called to do, but keep avoiding, are frequently the very contributions the world most needs from you. This creates a kind of divine tension, where your soul's longing pulls you toward your purpose, while your conditioned mind generates every possible reason why you're not ready, not qualified, not worthy, or not capable. This tension isn't a design flaw. It's a feature that ensures your gifts are developed through the fire of commitment, rather than the ease of casual interest. Think about the people who have inspired you most throughout your life. Chances are, they weren't the ones who had everything figured out from the beginning. They were the ones who felt called to something bigger than their fears and chose to move forward despite their uncertainty. They developed their gifts through the process of expressing them, not through endless preparation in isolation. Their willingness to be imperfect in service of something meaningful became part of what made their contribution so powerful. Your resistance to your purpose often masquerades as practical concerns. You tell yourself you need more training, more experience, more confidence, more resources before you can step into your calling. While preparation has its place, there comes a point where additional preparation becomes another form of avoidance. The Tao teaches that you develop your capabilities through engagement with life, not through endless preparation for engagement. Your gifts are refined through use. Your wisdom develops through application. Your confidence grows through taking action despite uncertainty. The 10th principle addresses the relationship between surrender and empowerment. Many people misunderstand surrender as passive resignation or giving up on their dreams and desires. In Taoist philosophy, surrender means aligning your personal will with the larger intelligence of the Tao, allowing yourself to be used by life rather than trying to use life for your personal agenda. This kind of surrender actually increases your effectiveness because you're no longer wasting energy fighting against the natural flow of circumstances. When you surrender your resistance to what life is offering, you don't become weak or powerless. You become available to responses and possibilities that your resistance was blocking. You develop the ability to receive guidance from sources beyond your limited personal perspective. You begin to trust that the challenges you encounter are not punishments or mistakes, but precisely the experiences needed for your next level of development. This trust doesn't come from blind faith, but from repeatedly witnessing how your difficulties become your strengths, how your breakdowns become your breakthroughs, how your resistance patterns become doorways to freedom. True surrender requires tremendous courage because it means releasing your illusion of control and trusting something larger than your personal will. It means being willing to be surprised by life, to have your plans interrupted by opportunities you didn't expect, to discover that what you thought you wanted wasn't actually what would serve your highest good. This kind of flexibility and openness becomes a superpower in a world where most people are rigidly attached to specific outcomes and methods. As you begin to experiment with these principles, you might notice that your relationship with resistance starts to shift. Instead of seeing it as an enemy to be defeated, you begin to recognize it as information to be explored. Instead of trying to eliminate all discomfort from your life, you start to appreciate how discomfort often signals areas ripe for growth and transformation. Instead of avoiding everything that feels challenging, you develop the discernment to distinguish between challenges that would genuinely harm you and challenges that would help you expand beyond your current limitations. This shift doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen through force or willpower. It happens through patience, curiosity, and compassion for your own humanity. It happens through repeatedly choosing to turn toward your experience rather than away from it, even when that experience is uncomfortable. It happens through developing trust in your own resilience and in the fundamental intelligence of life itself. Each time you choose presence over avoidance, understanding over judgment, curiosity over fear, you strengthen your capacity to be with whatever life brings. The journey of working with resistance is ultimately a journey of coming home to yourself. All the aspects you've been avoiding, all the experiences you've been running from, all the feelings you've been trying to escape are parts of the wholeness that you actually are. The Tao doesn't ask you to become someone other than yourself. It invites you to become more fully yourself, to embrace the entirety of your human experience, to stop fragmenting yourself into acceptable and unacceptable pieces. When you finally stop running from what you've been avoiding most, you often discover that it wasn't nearly as terrifying as your imagination made it seem. You realize that your resistance was often more painful than the actual experience you were resisting. You find that facing your fears doesn't destroy you, but reveals capacities you didn't know you had. You discover that embracing your shadows doesn't make you a darker person, but makes you a more integrated and authentic one. The Tao flows through everything, including your resistance patterns, your fears, your limitations, and your struggles. Nothing is outside the sacred movement of life, not even the parts of yourself you've been trying to escape or eliminate. When you can hold this understanding, resistance becomes just another form of life energy moving through you, neither good nor bad, but simply part of the endless dance of existence, expressing itself through your unique human form. This perspective transforms everything. Your struggles become your teachers, your limitations become invitations for creativity, your fears become gateways to courage, your resistance becomes a compass pointing toward your next evolutionary edge. Nothing is wasted in this view. Everything serves the larger purpose of your unfolding into greater wholeness and authentic expression. If you felt the truth of these words resonating in your heart, if you recognize yourself in these patterns of avoidance and resistance, then you're ready to begin this journey of transformation. You're ready to stop running from what life is offering you and start receiving it as the gift it actually is. You're ready to discover that what you've been avoiding most might just be what you need most for your next level of growth and fulfillment. Remember to like this video if it spoke to something real in your experience, and subscribe to join a community of people who are committed to living with greater authenticity, courage, and alignment with the deeper currents of life. Your journey matters. Your growth serves not just yourself, but everyone whose life you touch, and your willingness to face what you've been avoiding becomes an inspiration for others to do the same. The world needs your full presence, your authentic expression, and your unique contribution. The Tao is calling you home to yourself, and your resistance is actually the pathway there.